Hi, I'm Amy.
And I'm Kirsty.
And this is our podcast covering the highs, lows, and realities of parenting a child with neurodiversity.
Each week we'll be sharing updates from our lives and hearing from a variety of guests about their advice and experiences.
This is Love Needs No Words. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Love Needs No Words. We're very excited to have Alex Richardson with us today. So Alex has autism and is sharing his story and experiences to help others through his Instagram account at Alex Richardson Autism. He's also an ambassador for the National Autistic Society. Alex, welcome. How are you doing?
Hello, yes, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for coming. So could you just sort of, I guess, start by telling us a bit about your journey as a child living with autism to sort of now how it presents itself as an adult?
So I was diagnosed at 5 with autism and didn't really understand it until the age of 10. I knew I was different as I struggled with friendships in school. I was sensitive to noises and smells. School was difficult and I needed extra help with the learning side of things, but I was lucky enough to get extra help in class. I had a private tutor from the age of 8 to 16, and this really helped me because I was able to pass all of my GCSEs. Secondary school was more challenging as I was different to other boys in the school I attended, and this resulted in bullying. College was really the making of me, and I was able to grow in confidence and be myself. I was able to open up about my autism without being judged by my other classmates. And I even made a short film about my autism, and this gave me an opportunity to educate my other classmates, but also share my autism journey with them. And then work's been challenging because of a lack of understanding within workplaces, and it's been getting my colleagues to understand my autism and how it affects me. However, at the minute, I'm in a perfect job at the minute. I'm working for my local council as a grounds maintenance operative, and I feel really supported. I've become an autism champion at the council, and this is so that I can. It's given me an opportunity to educate, but also share ideas on what autism is like for myself and others like me. And this then gives me the opportunity to say how we can be better supported and understood.
How do you think the difficulties your autism presented when you were younger compared to now? How has it changed?
So the struggles in school were really with friendships and getting to know the right people, and also I used to look for I was in classes where the behaviour wasn't as good. The boys were boys that I didn't really want to be friends with, and it was about finding the right friendship groups and where having the right friends who understood me and would support me.
Yeah.
And then to adulthood, like in work, is the key thing is finding a workplace where people can support you, and that's really key. At the minute, I feel really supported by the council, and they've given me for example, I am driving a van, and it's a manual van. I've got an automatic car, and when I joined, they gave me that extra help with getting back into driving a manual, so they didn't rush me into it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And even the equipment, they've not really rushed me into they've built me up into using the different equipment. They've not raced me into it, which has been really nice. And I'm also able to talk about it with my managers, and I'm also able to open up about with my other colleagues. So it's really nice.
I think that friendship thing is something that seems to be challenging for a lot of autistic people. And then as parents, I think that's something that we're really hyper aware of for our children as well, and them supporting them and navigating that really, because it's tricky for neurotypical people, but there's obviously a whole heap of reasons why it's really tricky for autistic people. What did your parents do that you feel was kind of stand out helpful for you throughout your journey, do you
So
think?
my parents did so many things. My mum became a governor at both my primary and secondary schools. She did this in order to advocate not just for me, but for others like me, and for those students whose parents weren't able to speak up about weren't able to speak up about them, and they paid for extra tuition for me, and they took me to a lady in London to help with my sensory issues. They they always celebrated all of my achievements, no matter how big or small they were. As I've gotten older, they've encouraged me to support and advocate autism, and I've felt confident enough to speak on radio, TV, and at autism conferences. They've always played to my strengths.
Do you feel like you've got a strong relationship with them now because of that? As you've got older, you've got this stronger relationship because of how much they've advocated for you?
I feel like I've got a really strong relationship with them because they've been both great advocates and the ways they've supported me.
Oh, I hope ours feel like this, Kirst.
Fingers crossed. That's always the aim, isn't it? I think of any parent that your
Yeah.
children, yeah, that you nurture that really strong relationship when they're younger, so that it kind of, continues when they're adults and they actually want to spend time with you.
Yeah. And you're doing so much, Alex, by, voicing about autism at work and at conferences. And
Yeah.
it's people like you spreading the word, which makes it easier for our boys at school. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think the little helps.
for sure. And the thing that really stands out from everything that you said so far is education.
Yeah.
You are so determined. It's so clear that you are so determined to advocate for yourself and for other people. But, you've highlighted how pivotal your parents were in that journey of building your confidence and championing you, I guess, to give you the skills to do that and the want to do that as well, the desire to do it.
They were really key in that. So yeah,
What techniques have you learned along the way, Alex? So, for example, do you think you talked a bit about it there, but early intervention's key? Because we hear that a lot.
early intervention is key because children are understood better and they don't end up with the label of just being naughty or difficult.
Mhm.
Having people around me, whether it be friends or work colleagues who understand autism and are patient with me, is also key. The techniques I use, planning ahead for any event, having a plan B if things go wrong, or having someone I can ring, my mum, my dad, or my brother in a crisis. Other techniques I use, for example, are at football. When I was younger, I used and went to watch my team, Reading FC. I used to go into the ground. I used to like to go into the ground earlier than a lot of people, and this was so that the noise could build up around me gradually, rather than me walking into a really noisy stadium. And this really helped. And a really good thing is as well is if I've had a stressful day at work, as soon as I get in, I'll go for a run. And finally, not being afraid to ask for help is a really key thing.
You were talking about football being like a love for you, but I've also noticed that you love music as well. So is it the same kind of like thing with the noise? Because obviously the football and music are both really noisy activities, but obviously you enjoy it.
Yeah. So over the years, I go in a lot. I've built myself up to enjoy it really.
Mm.
And I mean, I've been a season ticket holder at Reading FC since 2008, and I go with my dad week in, week out, and that's a key routine for me. And then going and watching music now, I really enjoy, and that's another one of my routines where I'll go and watch bands that I like, and they're both really key things as well as the running that I do as well. I went to a music festival a couple of years ago and I had a really bad experience. I wasn't very happy with it, and I emailed the CEO at the festival, see if I can make a difference to like improve things for not only me but for other people who are going to attend it who might be neurodiverse. So I wrote the email there, and a couple of meetings later with the accessibility team, they were noting down ideas of mine. And then actually they've taken on a couple of ideas to make it a bit more inclusive, which has made a difference. That's Reading Festival that have listened to that.
Wow.
So they have added quiet camping to it. So, and it shows that they are willing to listen. That was just due to me having a bad experience, and I was like, want to change something because I don't think it's only me that's had this experience.
Yeah.
There'll be others in a similar situation that wouldn't have been able to speak up. So
Exactly. For them, they might not even consider it. Like they might not even think about quiet camping because they're not seeing it through your eyes.
no,
So yeah, it's being able to speak for those that can't or can't speak for whatever reason, and share the fact that actually quiet camping is really important and makes all the difference for you to be able to access that activity.
there's sensory spaces on site now, and I've been visiting some of these sensory spaces recently. So I've been going there, visiting them, seeing what they offer, and it's a really good thing to have on site now.
Oh, brilliant.
So my local one, Truck Festival, I went there and I do a bit of filming when I'm there, and I visited the sensory spaces, and it was really good to see what was there. They had a sensory shop, and I went there and saw everything in the sensory shop that they had on offer. And then I went to the sensory space, and it was really key just to see those places and see what different things they offered and how many people were actually using them. And there were lots of people that were using them. But also at football as well, they've become more inclusive. So Reading and other clubs have now started to introduce sensory rooms. So if there are people at football that are having sensory overloads, they've got that sensory space there. So there's lots of places which are adding these spaces now, which I'm finding where I'm going to, and I'm like, oh, they're adding all these spaces. It's really lovely to see it. There's still some aspects which I think do need changing. I think like security festivals. I think if they had a security staff, if they had security with the sunflower logo on the back of their high vises, you would know what security staff member to go to and ask for help if you were struggling, because they would be trained, and you'd train them up in that area, and then there'd be the security guard. They'd have sunflower logos on their backs, and you'd know that's a security officers trained in the meltdown areas and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
that's a really valid point.
Great idea.
Have you messaged Reading about that? Because it's such a good idea.
I think that is a plan of mine, but then also like I think also just try and I try and get them. The thing I've learned as well is trying to get the message out there. Like I've got TikTok and I started to use that a bit more to make videos and just show people what my experiences are like at different places, and if that helps,
Yeah.
that helps raise that little bit of awareness. That's really key.
Your sensory processing that you spoke about, did that relate to sound when you were younger?
Yes, it would relate to sound. I'd struggle with loud noises. I'd struggle with smells, strong foods. So if they were really strong, I'd struggle with how they smell. And noises, for example, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. When I was younger, I would have struggled going to any kind of event with loud music. I didn't. I didn't go to many birthday parties as a child because I didn't like the loud, like all the noise at the birthday party. So if I did get invited to one, I'd always have to bring my mum along so she could suss out things, and
Yeah.
it'd make it easier for me if it did get too much that I know that my mum was there.
The reason I asked you that, Alex, was because I think obviously we're parents of very young children, and I think it's important for us and for other parents to know that sometimes the things that our children struggle with now won't
Yeah.
necessarily be things that they're going to struggle with later on in their life. And actually it's really lovely to hear, because sometimes you think, oh, I'd love to be able to take my child to a football match, or I'd love to be able to go and enjoy live music if that's what you're interested in. As a parent, you think, oh, I want to share that journey with my child, but my child's struggling to even go to a birthday party because it's too loud. I can't envisage how they'd be able to get to that point. But actually, you're demonstrating how what it looks like when you're 5 isn't what it looks like when you're, a teenager or in your 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice for parents to hear.
Yeah.
Important for parents to hear.
That's what I was going to say, actually, Alex. Do you have the same issues now around sensory, with foods and things like that, or has that got better?
So it's gotten better. It's gotten better from what it used to be. I did just find some notes from a couple of years ago actually, when I was reading through some notes this year, and it was when I was a child, and there were certain foods that I didn't eat, and it was like lasagna, for example. I didn't eat it as a child, and then my mum's written down of how I was like eating it as a couple of months later, or like small achievements like that she'd written down. Of he's been off school for 6 weeks, but he really enjoys the routine of going back to school. He's really excited about how Alex has gone back to school, and he loves this routine of going to school, even though it's difficult. The routine was key for me of like primary school back in the day.
That's really interesting, because we've said the same, haven't we? There's many people that have come on and said the same as well. That routine, it's familiar. It's each day's the same. You get picked up from the same place, playground the same place. I find with my son, if we go somewhere unexpected now, he can really struggle with that, where school is predictable every day, which is, like you say, is so good. You mentioned a bit on your there as well, but you talk a lot on your Instagram about running and the massive impact that's had on your mental health. Do you think having a hobby like running that you can focus on helps a lot of neurodivergent people?
Having a hobby like running, it's one of the ways I manage my stress. I also go to the gym every day because I'm autistic and I like routines. So I do things over and over. Lots of autistic people have hobbies they're obsessed with. Luckily, mine's exercise. So I would encourage people to find something they really love and really enjoy as a hobby. They're really key for me in life. The routines, and if I didn't have them, I'd really struggle without them.
It's really important for your psychological safety, but it's also really important for that confidence building, I think, to find something that you love. it just gives you that opportunity to, just get self-worth and motivation and all those things that make you feel good about yourself, that then allow you to do all these other things like speaking at conferences and speaking on podcasts and all the wonderful things that you've been doing.
Yeah. I mean, my running, I took it up in COVID. So I've been doing that 5 years, but that helped during COVID times as well, psychologically, because there was nothing for my routine then. And that was really key. That really helped me throughout all the lockdowns and stuff, mentally and physically.
Yeah, I guess looking back in hindsight, finding that thing during a really tough, difficult time for everyone, but when routines are so important for you and suddenly just someone just pulls the rug from under you and you don't have any of those routines that you're used to, that must be really difficult. Was it a really difficult time?
It was a really difficult time, but that going running helped me, and then that led on to me running a half marathon for the National Autistic Society.
Oh, amazing.
So it was really positive in the end.
You're an ambassador for the National Autistic Society.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Because that's amazing.
It feels an honour to be an ambassador for the National Autistic Society, and it gives me a platform to advocate and educate others about autism. So how I became an ambassador, so my brother Matt was first asked to become an ambassador, having done some fundraising for NAS. He did this because of me, and also shared my short film I made in college with them. This resulted in NAS asking me to then become an ambassador for them. And as I said, it's an honour to be part of this.
Thank goodness for your brother. You've shared him quite a lot on your social media as well. You must have a really good relationship with him. Is it Matt, your brother?
Yes, my brother Matt, yeah.
Yeah. Is he a younger brother or an older brother?
He's an older brother.
Okay. Was he like the type of brother that he always kind of looked out for his younger sibling?
Yes.
Did you always have a good relationship?
Yes, we've always had a good relationship.
Oh, that's nice.
And now we're older, we're even closer, so I really love it.
They always say, don't they, your sibling gets you like no other. Do you feel like that, especially with the autism as well?
Yes, he really gets me, and I feel it's like that.
Was it important for you to be part of something like the National Autistic Society?
It was very important for me to be part of something like the National Autistic Society, because then I could also speak about my autism, but also it's helped me grow in confidence, actually, by being an ambassador, because I've been able to raise more awareness, and I've done more things than I would have ever imagined, really. People now ask for advice, which I really love, and I really love to help people.
Yeah. People want first-hand experience, I think, and who better to provide that than someone that's actually lived it. And also, it's really important that people get to see the face of autism, and for people not to underestimate what people can achieve and what they're capable of.
The way I see autism for myself, I see it as a really positive thing, but also I see autism as a difficulty, not a disability for myself, but I do understand that it is a disability for people. So
that's a great outlook.
You don't have to answer this because it's maybe not something that you've prepared, but that difficulty versus disability. Obviously, you see it one way as a difficulty. Somebody else might see it as a disability. Why do you think that you see it differently?
It's, I guess it's probably just the outlook, and that there's certain things, for example, that there's barriers in life I've had to get around, but I do it differently to other people. I might not do it straight away, but I'll get there eventually in the end. And and I feel it's good to be different in that aspect.
The perfect answer, because just our last podcast record that Amy and I did, we were talking about how both our sons get there, but in their own time.
Everyone gets there in their own time, and that's the thing. Like once they get there, they'll get there in that nice way. You can celebrate, no matter how big or how small it is. You celebrate with them like it's the biggest achievement.
Yeah.
It is so lovely because there's no expectation on them. I know for sure with us too, we don't put any pressure on them whatsoever, and it's all about doing it in their own time. But like you say, when they do something, it's such a massive win, and you all celebrate, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And from a parent's perspective, like you really feel those wins as well. You feel them so big, because you can see how it maybe hasn't been as easy for your child to get to that point as their peers. So I can see how your parents did champion everything you did and celebrate all those wins, whether they be small ones or big ones, because even the small ones feel great.
They feel big, and when I was that child, they probably felt really big for my parents.
Alex, what advice do you have for other people that maybe have had an autism diagnosis recently or who are living with autism?
My advice would be to embrace being unique, find friends and family who understand and support you, not to be embarrassed to tell people you have autism, as lots of people have similar traits and are actually, on the whole, very understanding and kind. Finally, to ask for help whenever you need it.
And that's something you've said you've had to learn to do.
Yes, I have had to learn to do that. So,
and what about work as well, Alex? We had a guest on the other week who said it was quite difficult for her son to find work. What advice would you have around that with finding a job that suits as well?
So for me, it took me time to find a job. It was hard. Interviews were hard. I would say preparing for job interviews, I would prepare for situations. So I'd prepare for the job interviews, what questions they were going to ask me. I'd always ask if I could have a list of questions, so I had an idea roughly what they were going to ask me. That made things that little bit easier. Then there's also the case of disclosing your autism and not disclosing it, which is which I found an interesting thing, because there were some workplaces where I would disclose my autism and they turned me down simply because I had autism. And then there were I had other workplaces where I didn't disclose and they'd want me. So it's a really hard one. It's really hard to know whether to disclose or not. But the employer I'm with now, I disclosed and they've accepted me for who I am. So it does take time to find the right employer, but I think there does need to be a bit more extra help in the work industries to be able to help people to get a job if they are struggling with autism.
Even like you said, having the questions beforehand, it just gives you that little bit extra support in preparing, which makes such a difference.
It does make a huge difference. I always found that job interviews were nerve-wracking, and that was a really difficult stage, because you'd found them so nerve-wracking and you didn't know whether you were going to get it or not. And then the whole thing of I've disclosed my autism, will they take you on board? Luckily, a lot of places will consider you and stuff, but there's a lot of competition for jobs as well, which makes it really hard. Autistic people are one of the lowest employed groups within the workplace. So I think the key thing for me is when now I'm in a job which I love to bits, and they really support me, and I can advocate it. I can also help them with advice if they. It's really the opportunity to share like my experiences by being a champion, really, and I can be like, this is what my experience is like. So that's been really key, actually.
You can tell how much you love your job, because for those people listening and who aren't watching, every time you talk about your job, your face just lights up.
Yeah.
You're just beaming. It's really nice, really good to see. I think there's few people actually that talk about their work with so much passion as you talk about.
But no, it's it is hard initially to find jobs. I would say that it's hard. It was hard going from the transition from college to finding a job, because suddenly you're not in education anymore, and that transition is the hardest point.
Yeah.
You lose that routine, you lose that comfort blanket if you find education to be that for you.
And that's what I found difficult, because I suddenly went from, I've been in education all this time, I love education, to I don't know what job to go for, I don't know what I want, I don't know how to. And I've worked in a few different industries, but it's just gaining even like work colleagues, finding the work colleagues who will support you. There's lots of support with work colleagues, and I've stayed in touch with a few of my work colleagues from previous employers, and they've understood me and understood my like differences and difficulties. So it's really good to have like that key figure in a workplace who will support you through things if you are finding something difficult, because you can always ask them questions.
Yeah, and there is that point that you want people to be inquisitive, you want people to ask, you don't want to hide it. And so I think actually now more people are discussing it. It's only a good thing, because people don't have that fear of asking the questions. But yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about it, how chuffed I bet your family are that you found a workplace that you enjoy so much, and for you as well. It's great that you have that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. They're really proud, and it's brilliant for me, really. Just being in full-time employment is a massive thing. So
yeah, absolutely. What advice would you give, Alex, so the majority of our audience, the people who listen to this podcast, are parents of children who have neurodiversity? What would you give to what advice would you give to those parents? I guess specifically probably from your kind of perspective as someone who has autism.
So my advice would pretty much be the same as my last answer. Embrace it. Don't be embarrassed. And my mum would say, don't be afraid to challenge professionals when your child is not being supported for their individual needs, and find local support groups with families in similar situations to share both struggles and triumphs. Finally, celebrate every achievement your child makes, no matter how big or how small.
Love that. Yeah. Go mum as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She sounds like quite a woman.
Yeah, I felt every ounce of that, because she sounds like us. She doesn't give up.
Absolutely.
She didn't give up. Yeah. Oh, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and yeah, just so nice to hear from somebody that's done so well, and like you say, has such a positive message around it, which is so important.
Thank you for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
And on a personal note, something you said right at the beginning of the podcast really resonated with me. You were talking about education, and you were saying about breaking down those kind of stereotypes of children who are just seen as naughty or difficult. And yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing to break down those perceptions, because I have a child who probably does fit into that category. So yeah, on a personal note, thank you.
That's all right.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.